Today in our lesson we'll talk about our intermediate course, and here unit 2, 2.2, unbelievable. Here our goals are sequence events, talk about sequence events and talk about communication, grammar and reading, sequencing events and just giving them in order, first, second, third. 1A, exercise 1A, work with a partner, look at the photos and match them to the 3 short articles. Pause the video and try to do this exercise on your own. As you see on first, bright blue watermelon. It's watermelon. It's at the bottom, and 2. It's a boy. It's about the boy at the top, and the third one is on the left, right bottom. It's a photo of skull. Exercise 1B. What do all these stories have in common? Now you have to think about what kind of common theme connect these stories. As you see, the answer is all these stories are about common hoaxes, meaning that they're not true and they have been made up to gain attention and gain publicity. Exercise 2. Read the stories again. Now read the stories again, and which story accounts for the things. Well, the first one is all this. Second one is going around online. Third one is did people believe for the longest time? And 4 was a result of someone wanting to be famous. Pause the recording, then do this exercise personally on your own. Now let's look at the answers. The first one is the story 3. This happened over 100 years ago in 1912. 2 is story 1. It has been circulating on the internet. 3 is story 3 again. The story was believed for nearly 40 years from 1912 to 1953. And 4 is story 2. They wanted to appear famous. Exercise 3. Work with a partner and discuss the questions. Pause the video and try to give your opinion on these questions. Now let's look at the possible answers. 1. Have you heard any of these stories before or any similar ones? Well, no, I haven't heard this kind of stories. Maybe it's about the one about skull because I'm interested in history. 2. Why do you think people carry out hoaxes like this? Well, the main motivation behind this may be, well, getting famous, getting rich, gaining attention of people. Exercise 4A. Listen to a radio program about hoaxes. Did they mention any of your reasons? Now you have to listen to the radio program and see whether your reasons are mentioned there.
Audio 2.3.
So, to our next story. A national newspaper was embarrassed recently after publishing a story about a superfruit, the blue melon, which, it turns out, was another internet hoax. Does the internet make hoaxing too easy? Laura, you work for a national newspaper. Do you think there are more hoaxes these days?
Well, there have always been hoaxes, but yes, there are more of them now. It is easy to create a hoax, now that everyone can change photos and videos digitally. And the internet makes it easier to spread the hoax around the world. Everything moves so fast nowadays, and online stories aren't checked before they're published.
One recent hoax I remember was the so-called balloon boy hoax.
Yes, that was a big story. A couple, Richard and Mayumi Heen, let a large gas balloon float off into the air, and then, as soon as it was high in the sky, they said that their 6-year-old son was inside the balloon. The police were informed and helicopters were sent up to track the balloon until they could find a safe way of getting him down. By the time the balloon landed, an hour or so later, about 80 kilometers away, the story was live on television. When the boy was not found inside, the media reported that he had fallen out during the flight, and a huge search started. Meanwhile, the boy was actually safe at home, hiding. The parents suddenly announced that they'd found him at home asleep.
Did the parents really think he was in the balloon?
Well, we can't say for sure, of course, because they never admitted it. But while reporters were interviewing the family on TV, the boy accidentally mentioned that they'd done it to be on TV. He was supposed to keep quiet about that, of course.
That's incredible. Do you think most hoaxes are carried out to become famous?
Yes, and that's not a new thing. Take the example of Piltdown Man. The scientists who claimed to discover that skull became very well known as a result. The publicity you get from a good hoax can also be useful in marketing a product. There have been quite a few advertising campaigns like that. But I don't think becoming famous or getting publicity is the only reason. Quite often, no one knows who started the hoax. Take the blue melon, for example. I imagine someone did that because they thought it was funny to make people believe it.
But not all hoaxes are funny. For example, people in Britain have been calling the emergency number 999 because of a hoax saying that calling this number charges your phone battery.
Really?
Yes, it sounds stupid, but a lot of people believe this hoax and it's caused real problems for the police and fire service. Some people seem to like creating hoaxes to cause as much trouble as possible.
Exercise 4B. Work with a partner. List 3 of the reasons for carrying out the hoaxes that are mentioned in the program. Pause the recording and try to do this exercise in a written form. Now let's look at the suggested answers. These kind of hoaxes are organized to become famous, to be on TV, to market, publicize a product, for a joke, for fun, to cause trouble. Exercise 4C. Listen again and check your answers. Listen to the audio one more time and try to check your own answers again. Exercise 5A. Complete the extracts about the first hoax mentioned in the radio program using the correct linking word or phrase from the box. Use each word, phrase, or phrase only once. Pause the video and try to finish and try to fill the gaps using these words. Now let's check the answers together. 1. A couple, Richard and Mayumi Hine, let a large gas balloon float off into the air, and then as soon as it was high in the sky, they claimed that their 6-year-old son was inside the balloon. 2. The police were informed and helicopters were sent up to track the balloon until they could find a safe way of getting him down. 3. By the time the balloon landed an hour or so later, about 80 kilometers away, the story was live on television. 4. When the boy was not found inside, the media reported that he had fallen out during the flight and huge search started. Meanwhile, the boy was actually safe at home hiding. The parents suddenly announced that they had found him at home asleep. 5. We can't say for sure because the couple never admitted it, but while reporters were interviewing the family on TV, the boy accidentally mentioned that they had done it to be on TV. He was supposed to keep quiet about that. Exercise 5B. Compare your answers with the partner. Listen and check your answers. Now you have to see whether your partner and you has the same answers, and listen to the audio and check your answers one more time.
Audio 2.4. 1.
A couple, Richard and Mayumi Hine, let a large gas balloon float off into the air, and then, as soon as it was high in the sky, they claimed that their 6-year-old son was inside the balloon.
2.
The police were informed, and helicopters were sent up to track the balloon until they could find a safe way of getting him down.
3.
By the time the balloon landed, an hour or so later, about 80 kilometers away, the story was live on television.
4.
When the boy was not found inside, the media reported that he had fallen out during the flight, and a huge search started. Meanwhile, the boy was actually safe at home, hiding. The parents suddenly announced that they'd found him at home, asleep.
5.
We can't say for sure because the couple never admitted it, but while reporters were interviewing the family on TV, the boy accidentally mentioned that they'd done it to be on TV. He was supposed to keep quiet about that.
Exercise 6. Read the sentences in exercise 5A again. choose the correct option to complete the information in the grammar focus box. Using the exercise 5A, try to finish this grammar focus on your own. Pause the video and try to do the exercise yourself. Grammar focus. Time linkers. We use time linkers to describe how the timing of events in a story relates to one another. Here, as sequencing words, time linkers show us the sequence of events and their correlation and relation to each other. 1. While describes when something happened but not for long. As you see, while describes the duration of or the time of something happened but not for long, and the example is while it was hot outside, we didn't go out. 2. As soon as describes an event that happens immediately after an event. For example, as soon as I finished my work, I went home. 3. Meanwhile describes a contrasting event that happens while something else is happening. As you see, meanwhile is the time linker that we use to show contrasting event or event that is happening at the same time. For example, we were playing football, meanwhile they were studying. 4. By the time that describes an action that happened before the main events. By the time, example is, by the time I came to work, all people left this place. All people left the office. And 5. During describes an action that happens at a point within this period of time. During shows the duration of time or duration of action happening within one period. For example, during summer, I only listened to audiobooks and read books. 6. Until describes an action that continued up to a point and then stopped. As you see, the word until shows the ending point of some action or situation. For example, I did my homework until 11 o'clock yesterday. Exercise 7A. Read the story of the Piltdown Man and choose the best time linker options. Pause the video and try to connect and try to complete the text with the correct time linkers. Now let's check the answers together. During the early 20th century, scientists were keen to find some evidence that would prove the link between early men and apes. In 1912, that evidence seemed to have been found while Dawson and Woodward were digging on a site in Piltdown in the south of England. As soon as they saw the jawbone and the skull, they decided that this must be the evidence science needed. Woodward claimed that both bones belonged to a human being who had lived about 500,000 years ago, during what is known as the Lower Pleistocene period. Most scientists accepted this opinion until nearly 40 years later, when it was discovered that the Piltdown Man was a fake. Meanwhile, Dawson, who most people consider responsible for making the fake, had died. The Piltdown Man hoax truly damaged science because by the time the hoax was discovered, scientists had wasted nearly 40 years believing a lie. Exercise 8B. Listen and check your answers. Now you have to listen to the audio, check your answers one more time.
Audio 2.5.
During the early 20th century, scientists were keen to find some evidence that would prove the link between early man and apes. In 1912, that evidence seemed to have been found while Dawson and Woodward were digging on a site in Piltdown in the south of England. As soon as they saw the jawbone and the skull, they decided that this must be the evidence science needed. Woodward claimed that both bones belonged to a human being who had lived about 500,000 years ago, during what is known as the Lower Pleistocene period. Most scientists accepted this opinion until nearly 40 years later, when it was discovered that the Piltdown Man was a fake. Meanwhile, Dawson, who most people consider responsible for making the fake, had died. The Piltdown Man hoax truly damaged science, because by the time the hoax was discovered, scientists had wasted nearly 40 years believing a lie.
Vocabulary and speaking, communication. Now we have to try to improve our communication skills. And here, 8.A, work with a partner, look back at the extracts from the radio program and exercise 5A, and find words which describe different ways of communicating or not. Now let's look at the answers. Claimant 1 were informed 2, reported 4, announced 4, say 5, never admitted 5, were interviewing 5, mentioned 5, keep quiet 5. Exercise 8B. Now complete the news items with the most appropriate verbs from the box in the correct form. Pause the video and try to use these words to complete the paragraph. Now let's check the answers together. Police announced yesterday that calls to emergency 999 number had risen sharply in recent months. They told the public to ignore a hoax story which claims that dialing 999 will charge your phone battery. Next part, newspapers which recently informed that Beijing was showing digital sunrises on huge screen because air pollution was too bad for people to see the real thing, has now admitted that a journalist actually invented the story. Exercise 9, task, work with a partner or in small groups. Go to page 126, choose one of the stories about a hope. That's the end of our lesson. See you in the next lessons.